Personal branding for spiritual people. How do you define your brand when you are an unlimited being? So this video is for you if you're somebody who is aware of your spiritual nature and you're having a hard time figuring out this whole branding thing. Nothing about it feels right? So let's say you want to go to your about page and describe your title, your description of what you do, or on your social media or whatever. Nothing seems like it describes exactly what you do, right? Everything seems like it's not quite it. Unless you expand and tell more and more and more, and then you feel like you're oversharing and that the stuff that you're putting out there may or may not be relevant, or maybe it'll confuse people, or maybe it'll scare people, or maybe you feel resistance to being defined and limited, because to define is to limit, and you don't want to limit yourself to a specific description. Bottom line is there doesn't seem to be a word or a description or a title or an about piece that quite describes who you are and what you do and why you do what you do, even though you might be clear about this. Okay, so even though you might be clear about this, and you may have still some clarity issues, but it's even more frustrating when you know what you want, at the core what drives you, what would make you feel alive, but you can't get yourself to say it clearly in a way that quite describes it, in a way that feels right to you, that feels authentic, that doesn't feel like you're lying to the people that you're talking to, but also doesn't feel like it's just out there and it's a little crazy and it's going to be completely misunderstood and taken out of context. So in this video, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the cause of this problem and why it happens and how to solve it, of course. How do we basically define ourselves without limiting ourselves? And how do we define ourselves when we feel like nothing quite fits, when we can't find the right words and the right description and the right title? So we'll dive right into it. If you're catching me for the first time, my name is Aliana. I am founder at Brands Are Alive. We help conscious creators like you bring your full self-expression to your brand, your business, and everything you create. So if you like this kind of videos, subscribe to my channel to make sure you don't miss me. I make a video like this every week. All right, let's get right into it. So at the root of this is that whether or not you recognize that, at least consciously, right? Whether or not you consciously know this, you are aware that what you're doing is not exactly the way you describe it. Meaning, you may be a coach who specializes in, let's say mindfulness coach, right? And you tell people that you're going to help them gain their focus and whatnot. But secretly, what you're actually doing is you want to help people free themselves from the illusion and endless reincarnation. You may be a nutritionist who, on the outside, you may call yourself a nutritionist, but deep down, you really just want to help people, I don't know. I don't want to give too much detail because, I'm trying to change little details about people so we're not saying too much about the privacy and whatnot, but you're a nutritionist on the outside, but on the inside, you're really, your core, your mission is something that sounds a little bit crazy to you, so you're afraid of sharing it with people, or you are a marketer like me, but I really just want to take people from fear to love and from darkness to light. Bottom line is you are secretly a light worker. Whether you know it or not, whether you realize it or not, whether you admit it or not, you are somebody who is here with a message, with a purpose of helping yourself and other people go from fear to love, to go from darkness to light. And you're doing it in the most unconventional ways. You're not necessarily a monk, you're not a guru, you're not some sort of necessarily spiritual teacher, You may not even talk about spirituality, you may not even talk about mindfulness. You're a marketer, you're a copywriter, you're a content creator, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you are a nutritionist, you're whatever you are. That's what you do. But that that's not who you are. You're not a coach, consultant, marketer, whatever you call yourself. That that's not your identity, And the thing is, what we really are is something so, I want to say so big, but it's outside of time and space that you can't understand it or conceptualize it with the mind, not fully at least. You can describe the characteristics of it, you can experience it, but you can't quite capture it with words because it is unlimited. And like I said, to define is to limit. And whether you know it or not, at least consciously or unconsciously, you are an unlimited being and you are so much more more than the description you're going to put on paper. So if you were to go and, on the other hand, try to write the full description of I am here because I want to do light work and I want to help people heal and I want to do this, this, and that, even if you were to aware of that and you wanted to say that, at some level you are still judging that about yourself. At some level you are still afraid of showing up fully. You're still trying to find a way that's acceptable and that's reasonable and that's not going to be misunderstood by people, that's not going to scare people away, that's not going to offend anyone. You're afraid that if you let go completely of what you deem as the safety net, the shore of being connected to the real world, right? Like using words like everybody else, speaking like everybody else, doing work that's somewhat similar to what everybody else is doing in your field, at least you want to be normal. You're afraid that if you let go of that there is no return. Once you unveil or unleash or reveal who you really are, there is no going back, and who knows what can happen then, right? And I'm telling you, like, there are so many people who, how many people reach out to me who are so afraid of showing up, who are so afraid, who know that about themselves at some level, and they're so afraid of talking about it. They're afraid of even admitting it to themselves. And maybe because they see that I'm open about this part of myself, they feel I'm not going to judge them, so they talk to me about it. And I am telling you right now, this is not a unique problem to you, if it makes you feel any better. Because when I was going through it, I really couldn't understand why I was struggling with this. I mean, I like I mentioned, like my background is in marketing, right? It's what I did for most of my career. I even did professional copywriting at some point. I helped hundreds of brands build their positioning, build their, statements, build whatever, right? Like their personas, all of that. I never thought I would struggle with something as simple as writing an about page, but building a brand for yourself is different. Building a brand for a personal brand is different, period. Because when you're dealing with a product, it's more flat, right? But when you're dealing with a person, it's a multidimensional being. But when you're building a brand for yourself, especially, I mean, the emotions that go into it, the fears, the healing that needs to happen, it is crazy. So just knowing what to do and what to say is not enough. So I'm telling you right now that if you're going through this, I am willing to bet that this is the root cause at some level, because you're an authentic person. You don't want to lie. You don't want to pretend to be something that you're not. You know you're not just a coach. You're not just a marketer. You're not just whatever title it is. But you also aren't ready to claim the other part of yourself, the other part of your brand that you're so afraid to say yes to. And it's either fear of judgment or fear of not being good enough to claim it. I mean, who am I to say that I am, let's say if like I said earlier, like you're a light worker in disguise. Who am I to say that I am that? Who am I to say that I am a spiritual teacher? Who am I to say that I am an enlightened being? Who am I to say that I am a whatever it is, insert, what you suspect you are? Who are you, right? I think that's the bottom line, is that resistance, that if we claim it, we feel like I have to now live up to that, and I'm not sure I can live up to that. And I talked about this in a video before, but I'm going to talk about it again today, okay? I'm going to talk about the importance of duality and understanding and making peace with the duality that is you, let's say the human being, the animal, the ego, and then the other part of you, the higher self that's unlimited and that's infinite. And understanding that you are constantly walking in that duality. You're always both and neither. And you have to make peace with the fact that you are both this and that and neither one at the same time. So you are spiritual but also materialistic. You are kind, but sometimes you're an asshole. You are confident but incredibly insecure. You could be contradictions, and you're supposed to be, because if you know anything about what I talk about and what I teach, branding is not just the process of labeling. To me, branding is a process of stepping into your highest self and claiming it. It's a process of committing to being. It's saying, this is who I know myself to be, and this is what I want to create in this world, and I am working on becoming that. And then it becomes a process of claiming, right, that position of being and that position of service. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to serve? What do you want to create? What makes you feel alive? Not out of obligation or a desire to be goody-goody. It's not, there's none of that, okay? It doesn't make you better or worse. You don't have to save the world. It's not your job to save the world. It's not your job to enlighten other people and whatever, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying, you know? But what I am saying is, if that's what brings you joy, that's what you feel like you can't help but do that, then you've got to do that. You came here to do that, so you have to do that. And the cool thing about branding is that it kicks you in the ass because you cannot hide in your little cave and meditate for 20 hours a day. You have to go out into the real world, in a battlefield, face real life, face the material world, face all of your wounds, face your humanity, and deal with it and build very meaningless shit. Not meaningless, but like very concrete post-it notes. Deal with this kind of stuff while being a fucking god at the same time. That's what it means to be alive. That's the beauty of being a human being. So stop hiding. Okay, so here's the thing. You cannot escape building a brand. If you're in business, unless you hide, a brand is going to be built regardless. A brand is kind of like reputation. One way to think about it is that brand is like reputation to business is like reputation to a person. Another way to think about it, and this is how I see it, brand is also like a higher self to a business in the same way that higher self is to the self, meaning that a business without a brand, an intentionally chosen and crafted brand, is like a person who's walking around with absolutely no connection to their higher self. They have no idea who they're aspiring to be, who they are at their best. They have no clue. And so this is why it's so important that you intentionally choose the brand that you want to create. You have to intentionally choose it. Otherwise, you're going to create it on autopilot. And it's going to be garbage if you create on autopilot. It's going to be garbage. I'm telling you right now. Okay, it's going to be, you're going to wake up one day, you're going to be like, this is not the business I wanted to create. And this is not the person that I wanted to be. Consciousness, being aware is crucial to creating things from a place of love. Because every day you're going to be faced with fears. Every day you're going to be faced with just the game of being a human being. So you cannot escape building a brand. If it's going to be created anyway by default, you have to choose it for yourself. Now, the other reason why you must intentionally choose your brand, and the biggest reason, really, the most concrete one, why you can't escape it and just say, well, you know, it's not authentic, I don't want to do it. Why not just not do it at all? Because we are living in a really busy world where people are constantly walking around with their agendas in their minds. People are walking around with problems they want to solve. They have desires they want to meet. And, you know, they are scanning the world for things that are going to help them pursue their agendas. Most people, at least. This is how it works. And a person might really love your work, and they might need it desperately and want it, and they would be transformed as a result of working with you. And, you know, you could make huge impact in their life, but they wouldn't know it. They wouldn't know because they don't get to spend enough time with you because they're busy. Like, you have 8 billion people on this planet. You're not going to get to know every single person, right? You need a little bit of time with a person. And so what a brand does, what a carefully crafted, intentionally built brand does, is it helps you cut through the noise and have an immediate capturing of their attention. And this is in any relationship, it goes through 3 phases. And I've read dozens of books that talked about the subject from different angles. Some people call it attention, like the book Captivology by Ben Parr. Some were talking about building relationships. Some were talking about the 3 stages of trust. It all comes down to these 3. There is the short, medium, and long term. The short term is the capturing attention. You know, you see someone and something about them grabs your attention. Every relationship you've had, with the exception of your mother squeezing you out of her body, every relationship you've had, they've captured your attention, right? Like friends, personal relationships, business relationships, all relationships, it's because you got each other's attention. That was necessary. And then the second stage, or the second step, is kind of getting to know the person and sussing out, engaging if you are resonant or not. So, you know, you start to get to know each other and you see if there is something there that matches that attractive first impression. And then finally, there is a stage where you've built trust and you've built enough emotional capital and you realize now we have a bond, we have a relationship, we have a connection. This happens on the back of conversations. Relationships do not happen without conversations. In the context of marketing and in business, that would be content. Content marketing is your conversations. And so you're having conversations at scale, like I am creating these videos right now, having a conversation with you. I'm talking to you about a topic. So this is how you build these relationships, right? So you cannot escape it. You have to get their attention. Now, when you are creating a brand of full self-expression, what it does for you is it helps you avoid having to use all the unsustainable tactics that people use to grab attention, such as clickbait titles or relying on physical appearance and sexual attraction and that sort of thing that we've seen and we continue seeing in business over and over, which do work, but then they backfire. You know, they work until they don't. And so having a brand of full self-expression enables you to resonate with someone immediately on an emotional level. This is very important. There are two sides of, if we want to oversimplify things, the logical and then the emotional. And the logical is where, like I said earlier, people having problems, walking around with problems and desires. When you grab their attention by talking about their problem, right? I am grabbing your attention when I tell you about something that you are struggling with right now, without having to resort to any tactics that will ruin our relationship. I'm genuinely showing up, to talk to you about a problem that I know you might have, and I have something for you because I've solved it for myself and for other people, so I'm sharing it with you. That's one way to grab somebody's attention. That's the logical side. Now, on the emotional side, on the other part, there is the part of, you just resonate with someone and you have no idea why. And this is where your brand of full self-expression comes in. You've got values. You've got, what does this person care about? What do they stand for? And who are they and how are they showing up in the world? And once you meet somebody who has values that are similar to yours, the ones that you care about most, the ones that you're working on right now, and then you meet somebody who also has something that you want or that resonates with you because you've shared something similar in your life, you've gone through similar experience, now you are resonating on an emotional level. And if you have these two, that's a very powerful brand. A brand and a business that connects with people both on an emotional level and a logical level. A brand that people not only resonate with, but they know that they can understand what is the tangible result of working with this brand or of engaging with this brand. What am I getting out of this? As well as fulfilling that emotional side and having an emotional connection. That's how you create a brand that, the cult kind of brands, the brands that people have, are crazy about and follow and buy anything that brand creates. And there are people in my life that are creators. I'll name them. Icario, for example, and Shemelach from Icario and the whole Icario team. They blew me away because their values, the way they do their work, everything about them resonates with me so much that I go back and look at what they have periodically, and whenever I have a need or a problem, I just go back to Icario if I have like a productivity issue or whatever, or I need some help with something like that. I go back and see, do they have something? And if not, we have conversations sometimes, and I just let them know what I want, and then they would create a coaching program or something around it because enough people said that it was an issue. This is how you create a core audience of people who love your stuff and are seeking you out and wanting to, to work with you. That you don't have to chase, you attract. So kudos to them. They did it well. That's an example. So in conclusion, it's important to remember that you are not the brand. The brand is really just a kind of a description of a part of you or a side of you that you're turning up the volume on, but it's not the fullness of who you are. And you have to own that. You can't wait for people to give you permission. You can't wait for the right time. There will never be the right time. You can't go out there and ask people, do you think that I'm ready for this? Or put your brand out there and then wait for the audience or for the customer or the buyer to say, yes, you are that. You are the one for me. No, you have to be the one who says, I am ready and I'm going to step into this. And trust that the right message is going to resonate with the right person at the right time. You have to trust, you have to let go of the need to control every step along the way, making sure to do all of it right. And it's important that you don't get over-identified with the labels, because at the end of the day, branding is a labeling process. But if you over-identify with the labels that you create during the branding process, you are going to suffer. Because again, you're never going to live up to the potential of the brand. It's an aspirational thing. You're never going to be fully that at all times. And let's say, for example, your brand is that you're a spiritual teacher, and one day you do something that's not very spiritual, right? You do something that's purely from ego. If you're over-identified with the label, which would be the farthest thing from being spiritual, but anyway, if you over-identify with the label, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to feel like, your ego is going to feel like you're dying. It's like, wait, who am I again? So you have to understand that you are that, but you are not that. And you are both and neither at the same time. I know it's a mind fuck, but just know that it is about you and it isn't about you, okay? You are creating this brand to cut through the noise, to be able to have a conversation with the right person, to be able to resonate with the right people. And so it's not about you in that sense. In the sense that you have to make them the hero of the story. I would recommend you read the book called Story Brand by Donald Miller. Great framework for this. You can create the story, this brand story, around them being the hero, right? So you have to take your attention off of yourself when it comes to that part, but also it is completely about you, because it's about fulfilling your existence, for fulfilling your presence here on planet Earth as an expression, a unique expression of a divine universe, of a universal consciousness that doesn't spit out stuff for no purpose, where everything happens for a reason. And I don't mean that in a cutesy way for you to create a little quote and put it. I mean literally everything. If you drop, a pen drops, it dropped for a reason. It's all cause and effect. And you are here to be the fullest expression of who you really are. And you're here to create. You are a creator. Human beings are creators. Apple trees create apples, orange trees create oranges, and human beings are creators. We are creative beings with crazy imagination. I can't understand why and how we live the life that we live and we think it's normal. It is not. It is not. Okay? It's not. We're here to create. Create what? Well, you find out for yourself. But first you have to get to know yourself. So at the end of the day, what I wanted to say is this. Your brand is a commitment to being that which you intentionally choose to become. You have to claim it and own it, and you have to be comfortable in the duality of knowing that you are that, but not that, and you will never become that, but you're already infinitely that, and you are going to spend the rest of your life becoming more and more and more of who you are, and uncovering more and more of who you are, and you have to be okay with never living up to it, or people not resonating with it, because it's your job to choose who do you want to be, who do you want to serve, what's your message, and own it, and do what makes you feel alive, and trust that this is a co-creative process, and trust that if you do that, you are going to resonate with some people. You are going to find the right people, but it's not about quantity, it's about quality. You're going to resonate with less people, but you're going to resonate a lot more deeply. So that was it for today. Again, my name is Aliana, founder at Brands Are Alive, where we help conscious creators like you bring your full self-expression to your brand, your business, and everything you create. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.